So in education, we often use a lot of technology in our classrooms and outside of our classrooms as well. But there's some of these kind of fringe innovations that are slowly creeping into our doors and making an impact in schools and classrooms across the world. Today we're going to be talking about some of these innovations that are going to be making an impact in our classrooms over the next 45 minutes with some experts in the field from across the world. Welcome to Ed Talks Live. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is Ed Talks Live. It is the last episode of season 2, episode 14, and we're going to be speaking about esports and VR in this show. So let's have a look at what it's all about. So, 6th of December, the Global Education Talk Show, and we're going to be joined by Tom Dore, who is the head of education for the British Esports Association in the UK, and Caitlin Krause from the USA, who is a VR expert. She's an author, and she's also the founder of MindWise USA. We're going to also have a few people joining us in the staff room: Chester King, Lainie Rowell, Steve Isaacs, Chris Aviles, Jess Lubinsky, and of course Michael Crawford, who always comes and co-hosts with us during the show. So we're going to step into the staff room now, guys, if you want to turn your microphones on. Okay, guys, how is everyone doing?
Great.
Doing well. How are you?
Morning.
All good. So, Michael, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Sounds great. Well, thanks. Thanks, everyone, for being here. It is exciting. This is the last episode of the season. It has both flown by, and it feels like we started a long time ago. So, always glad to be here. My name is Michael Crawford. I am the co-founder of edspace, the social learning network for the world of education, and I am always glad to be here. Let's see who else is joining us today. So, Chester, can you say hello?
Hi everyone, I'm Chester King. I'm the Chief Exec for the British Esports Association, and I'm also a Vice President of the Global Esports Federation, where I chair their Education, Culture and Wellness Commission, and I sit on the IOC, the Olympics Board for Esports and Gaming, and I'm an esports advisor to the UK government on esports education.
Hi, I'm Lainie Rowell, and I am an educator, author, podcaster, very interested in esports, but the least knowledgeable in the room, I will be honest, and I'm excited for the conversation.
My name's Steve Isaacs. I teach game design and development at William Anna Middle School and Ridge High School in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. I'm the co-founder with Chris Aviles down there for Garden State Esports, a NASEF affiliate for NASEF, and Jesse, Chris, Christine, and I just launched the esports playbook this week. So we're excited about all the the fun attention that the book's been getting.
My name is Chris Aviles. I am a middle school teacher here in New Jersey. 3 years ago, I started the first middle school esports team in the country. And then, as you heard, along with Steve, written an esports playbook with Jesse as well. And I run the nonprofit along with Steve, Garden State Esports, where our mission is to spread esports into every school in New Jersey.
I'm Jess Lubinsky. I'm Chief Learning Officer for Ready Learner 1, and I am actually the co-author of the Esports Education Playbook along with Steve and Chris, as well as Reality Bites, Innovative Learning Using Augmented and Virtual Reality, which is over. I always do this wrong on Zoom. Gotcha.
Great, wonderful. Thank you all for being here. I know this is a power-packed group here to be able to talk about esports and VR and all things in between. So thank you all for being here. And Ivo, back to you.
Thanks, Michael, and thank you everyone for joining us for this show today. So, as I just mentioned earlier about esports and VR, there's quite a bit more traction with the impact that it's making in education and obviously further afield in communities across the globe. If we take a quick look at some of the career paths that esports can actually carve out. There's a whole host that you can see on this visual, something that our first guest is going to speak about a little bit more. But let's not forget the impact that virtual reality can also make in our classrooms. It allows students to be able to experience things that they would not usually get to experience, particularly in remote learning frameworks where students may be learning either at home or in smaller bubbles in school. This seems to be a great opportunity for students to be able to visit places virtually when they may not be able to physically. So we're going to jump into our first poll as well. We're going to be asking people who are tuning in to take part in a poll. The first poll, by visiting menti.com, if you type in the code 2478381, okay, 2478381. The first question is, how much is esports and VR a priority in your school? Your choices are little or not at all. Number 2 would be increasingly. Number 3 would be widely. Number 4 would be extensively. Okay, so feel free to take part in that. If you're tuning in, whether you are a teacher, a student, or a parent, it'll be great to see what your choices are for that one. So, without further ado, we are going to jump to the first guest. Let me just make sure that we have everything right here. So the first guest, he is Tom Dore, Head of Education for the British Esports Association. You can find him on Twitter at British_esports or at the website britishesports.org. Just going to see if I can get hold of Tom now. Tom, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Welcome to the show, Tom. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for the invite.
No problem. You're currently in the UK, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm based in the Southwest. I'm the Head of Education for the British Esports Association, and I'm also a teacher. I still teach 3 days a week. I've been teaching for the last 16 years across full spectrum of alternative provision schools through the original sponsored academies, where I was an assistant principal in charge of assessment and progress. And now I swapped sides 4 years ago into the private sector, and so now I teach at King Edward School in Bath, which is one of the top 100 schools in the country in terms of academic results.
Perfect. And it's quite interesting that you're balancing the role of being connected with the British Esports Association and education as well. So, I mean, my hat's off to you there, because I know even just being a full-time teacher, as some of us are in the room, including myself, it's not easy just being a teacher, let alone having something else to work on the side. So, with you currently working in classrooms and in schools, how do you find teachers are promoting an understanding of esports?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing is actually the understanding of what esports actually is. And so it's the definition of esports is organised competitive video gaming, and it's always human versus human. So that's the differentiator between traditional video gaming and esports. And so it's not the stereotypical in your bedroom on your own playing against a computer preconceptions or misconceptions that both parents and teachers and other stakeholders can have. It's always teams of people playing against other teams of people. And so through that, young people develop all the same teamwork, leadership skills, decision-making, strategic thinking, problem-solving, all those types of critical character development skills that we know is so important in the development of young people. As a teacher, once I can get educators past that point, senior leaders, decision makers, once we can get them past the point of them seeing it just as being video gaming, and you start talking about the links to STEM skills, to STEM subjects, to the development of digital skills, digital literacy, and the career pathways that then exist, that's when I feel that educators are able to suddenly think, oh, there's something in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, talking about those career pathways, let's just put up that graphic that I showed up before. Can you talk us through some of the key pathways that you feel best suit students in esports?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the inherent link with STEM subjects, with computer science, with digital skills, with creative media. So I think if I can rewind back a little bit, there's the competitive side of esports, where it's teams from schools, colleges, teams of young people playing against other teams of young people. And then there's the academic side as well. And through the courses that have been developed around the world, through our colleagues in the US who are going to speak in a while, but we've developed in Great Britain, we're working with Pearson, the global education publisher, and we've created the world's first qualifications in esports for 16 to 18-year-olds, BTECs in esports. They've been fully funded, fully approved by the British government, and being taught in colleges at the moment. And what we've done through that qualification, it's helping young people develop the skills they need for the esports industry, which is now global. It's growing exponentially around the world. It's a $1 billion industry now around the world. So we're generating the skills they need to feed that industry, but then also the wider, as I said, the industry is linked to STEM, linked to digital skills, creative media, streaming, as well as then the actual coaching side, the performance, the health, nutrition, coaching side of esports that goes alongside all traditional sports as well. The transfers are there between traditional sport and how sporting clubs are set up and how the professional esports teams are set up as well.
That's really cool, and just by sharing what you've said there will really open up a lot of educators' minds, because I mean certainly our generation, you didn't get paid to play computer games when we were kids. If anything, I used to get told off by my mum and chased up the stairs with a slipper. Do you know what I mean? For playing Street Fighter 2. So yeah, it's a different world now.
It's an opportunity to engage a wider demographic of young people. So if young people in your school are not into traditional sport, they're not into music, they're not into drama, they're not into art, the traditional team-based activities, where are they getting the team-based skills? Where are they developing those sorts of skills from? Where are they getting the opportunity to represent your school in the same way they do for traditional sports and traditional activities? You always have the assemblies, the football team's been and they've beaten the local rivals, let's give them a clap. Or the orchestra's been down to the old people's home and given a concert, well done, let's give them a clap. But if you're not the type of student who's into those sorts of things, where are you getting that chance to represent and therefore be valued and celebrated for what you're good at? And for a lot of our young people, it is that video gaming. It is being good at gaming. It is being good at tech, at IT. In the UK, there's a study, an annual study from Ofcom, the children's use of media, and it said last year, this is pre-COVID, 81% of 12 to 15-year-olds are on average playing for between 12 and 14 hours a week, playing video games for between 12 and 14 hours a week, and that's pre-COVID. What we've got to do is harness the positivity, use this as a vehicle, as a hook to motivate and engage, but in balance, in moderation, and show the links to where to where this is in terms of the STEM, in terms of digital careers moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of giving some advice to maybe educators. What two things could you offer as advice to try and bring esports into the school community?
I think the first thing they've got to do is just go and speak to some of the students. Speak to the young people and find out where they are and what they're doing. One of the things we always do, what we always suggest to staff is, look, just go out and do a survey. Do a survey of your kids and find out what they're doing. Find out which games they're playing, where they're playing on console, where they're playing on PC. Ask them the question, would you like to play in an esports team? Would you like school to set up an esports club? Once they see the response coming in from those students, even the most diehard naysaying person, I hate video games, once you see those numbers, you can't deny it. We've had schools where over 10% of the whole school population has registered for the trials for the school team. So we've had over 100 kids registering for trials for a team of 5, for example. And so once educators start seeing that and start seeing the difference it makes for young people who traditionally, as I said, might not necessarily represent the school in different ways, it's a huge thing. And as any educator worth their salt, once they see that, should be thinking, right, this is going to make a massive difference to young people here. I can use this as a hook to motivate and engage. And that's what it's all about for me. It's all about building positive relationships with young people to then be able to motivate and engage them. Esports is the vehicle. It might be something different in 10 or 15 years, But esports, video games, technology is the way we can hook young people now.
Absolutely. Tom, thank you very much for your passion. It really shows. And I'm hoping people who are tuning in can really walk away with a few tips on how to bring esports into schools and the wider community. We're going to jump into the poll now, and it'll be interesting to see what's come out here. So the poll, how much is esports and VR a priority in your school? 50% of people who have voted in have said increasingly we have started to promote it more this year. 25% have said widely. Number 3, we promote it in most classes, and 25% have said extensively that all staff promote it. So that's great news, really. It's great news to see that we do have schools that are using this type of technology effectively to engage students in school. Let's jump to the staff room and let's see what we have. Some of the opinions we have from some of the people in the staff room. Michael, over to you.
Thanks so much, Evo, and thanks, Tom, for sharing all of that. I think the one thing that jumped out at me was talking to students. I think it's something that is pretty universal across education, that when there is a new opportunity or even something that's happening at school or outside of school, having student voice, having student input, understanding where they're coming from and how they're understanding the world around them, I think is super valuable. Chester, let's jump over to you. What resonated for you with what Tom had to say?
Well, as Tom works for me, I was just saying how good he was and passionate. I think it's important to know, so we are a not-for-profit organisation. We've got a very good relationship with different not-for-profits around the world. You know, when it comes to education, there's a British way, there's an American way. You know, at a high school level, we have to have it approved by the UK government. It took us time. We've just got it approved by the Scottish government as well. You know, we've got hundreds of kids now studying, you know, at a high school level. So we're really excited. We've also written 7 university degrees in Esports UK. So this isn't just about being a better gamer. This is about the skills around it. So it's taken us a few years. We've been established 4 years ago, and Tom's been there almost from day one. And I think it's taken time. We've done pilots. We've proved the engagement, and then it's gone on to, I think, we're not assuming everyone's going to work in esports, but as Tom said, we're using it as a Trojan horse to attract. And the interesting thing about the studies that's happening now, of the 200 plus children that are doing it, this is the first intake of our course, it's 100% attendance. So it's the only course, honestly, the only course at a college level, which is our kind of high school level, that has 100% attendance, albeit it's only been going for 2 months. But it's just interesting to see that.
Yeah, that's really impressive. Yeah, usually the only thing to get young people to attend at 100% is to get them food, and so this may be the second thing. Steve, let's jump over to you. You've been in esports and gaming for a long time. What hit you from what Tom had to say?
Well, I was very glad to hear everything Tom had to say, because it lines up exactly with the kinds of things that we're doing and trying to promote, and that career pathways part is such a huge part, and the idea that in esports, there's really something for anybody who wants to be involved in the space. So, it's one of those things where kids are definitely interested in the space of gaming and competitive gaming. Not every kid is going to be the star, player, but everybody who wants to be in that scene can be, and that's one of the things we promote. We also have really found that so many kids that might not otherwise have their space or their place in the school community or the home to school community, as Chris often refers to it, they do have that with gaming and esports, and that's something that's new, I think, in terms of providing that ever important affinity space for those kids.
Yeah, that's big time. I appreciate your thoughts, Steve, and Chester, and Tom. Evo, send it over to you.
Thanks, Chester, and thanks, Steve, for sharing your insights. We're going to jump over to question 2 on the poll before we go to our second guest. So let's have a look at question 2. Again, the same code, 2478381, the same website, menti.com. Question 2 is, what characteristics does Esports and VR promote in students? Okay, so this is a word cloud format. Feel free to put up to 5 different characteristics. Singular words generally tend to work a little bit better in this format. And we'll come and revisit that in just a second. Let me just make sure we are ready for guest 2. So our second guest is Caitlin Krause. She is an author and founder of MindWise in the USA. And she is a big VR advocate, often posting on social media about her VR experiences. Let me see if she is about. Caitlin, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, Evo. Thank you so much.
Hi, Caitlin. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Yeah, and I'm actually responding. It was really fascinating listening to what Tom had to say. Definitely reached me, and I think there's so much consonance between the two topics and really increasing that enthusiasm. The word agency came up, so yeah, right in flow.
Yeah, absolutely. So just quickly, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Well, I have 2 decades of background as a teacher. Started out of university as a programmer and then went into education, primarily curriculum design. I felt like sometimes we title areas of curriculum by the subject level and then sort of segment it. And a lot of my students were coming in wanting to do project-based learning before it had a name. I ended up directing a group of teachers in the US in interdisciplinary program design and then moving overseas, first to Belgium, then to Switzerland. So full-time classroom teacher in middle school and high school, and really looking at the intersection of storytelling, some of those game capacities of trying to really break out of the silos of education and have students working on things together, problem solving. And along the way, I became really kind of passionate about where the creative brain thrives. Basically, how do we get in that state that we might call flow, when you feel yourself in the zone and you just, take off on a project. So for me, it was all about collaboration and learning more about the neuroscience of the brain. And that led me to couple mindfulness with areas of virtual reality. So on my own, I started out as a VR player, somebody who's passionate about the industry, but really looking at qualities of our attention and mindfulness practices that could bring in that social emotional learning and have somebody feel comfortable in the space. So when I founded my company about 5 years ago, I was really looking at that sense of presence that you can build when you're in these immersive environments. So what I really love about this conversation is what Tom was saying that really resonated with me is that somebody can feel really present in an experience, and it's a whole body type of thing. I grew up as an athlete, and for me, every chance you have to feel as if you're challenged and you're also in an environment where there's trust, there's a goal that you're pursuing together, I think that's really valuable. So right now I've been working a lot on, as you were saying, just showing experiences, especially in virtual reality, that bring about that better sense of presence for adults, for learners, ways that you can really take the practices and infuse that social emotional quality. So I've been writing books, doing a lot of interviews in the field, working. I have a job as the Virtual World Society Community and Business Development Director. Just looking at ways that people don't feel alone as they're trying out what they might see as new tech, new media. We think of this as something that might seem really exotic and different, and I think that's great. It can give it a certain kind of special appeal.
Yeah.
But I think everybody is looking for a deeper connection in these times.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I do is a bunch of different things. I lead experiences. I acclimatize people to the new environments, and I also do a lot of research out in the field, and then bring that research into the writing I'm doing and what I put out there for people to learn more.
That's awesome. I mean, Just before we continue, I'm just going to bring up your book, actually, Mindful by Design. So I've just put up a graphic of your book. It can obviously be ordered from your website, caitlinkraus.com. Tell us quickly a little bit about this book.
Sure. That's the first book I wrote, and 2 years ago, the first nonfiction. I also write fiction and poetry. And this book really came from people telling me that they didn't have time for mindfulness and social emotional learning. And for me, it fit into STEM. It actually fit into the ways that we approach a lot of our different challenges, and especially with technology and science. And so I wanted to integrate the values of mindfulness practices, which I broke down into 3 letter A's: awareness, and really that quality of advancement and being authentic. And across this book, there are exercises for teachers and parents and adults to practice that have applied mindfulness. Then there's a standards-based curriculum and ways in the classroom and community that people can apply it directly to groups and collaborative experiences. And then this book led to the second book that I wrote that just came out a couple of months ago, called Designing Wonder. And Designing Wonder is about leading transformational experiences inside of virtual reality. So the second book really stems from the same values, but takes the practices and says, okay, what would you do if you have a group of people and you want to lead a great experience inside of VR? A lot of people can focus on the tech or focus on one application, but you get people together and there's a magic in collaboration. So I wanted to support teachers, people who are managing a group project, and say, this is what you can do in VR and this is a methodology.
That's awesome. So, I mean, there's a lot to digest there with everything that you just said. What piece of advice, maybe 2 or 3 pieces of advice, can you offer to support teachers to bring in some of these tools, and including VR, into the classroom, so they can start to explore with their students?
Yeah, I'm grateful for this question. I'm also grateful that you gave me a chance to kind of reflect on it beforehand, because I do have 3 answers here. And for those of you who are visual, I'm using red because I'm red team today. I'm into gaming a lot. So 3 pieces of advice. I would say the first one is just to, it sounds kind of like a paradox, but not focus on the technology itself, because the tech are the tools and they're going to keep advancing. There's something happening right now that's kind of a rapid shift in the ways that we approach technology. Sometimes I know for group management right now, where the infrastructure is changing, even the dynamics of remote learning are changing, and accessibility. So for teachers, I'd recommend trying to run a pilot study in your school and trying to get someone who's in the IT or tech department involved, so that you have access and you have some training support. Because the first step is really the accessibility. But then as you're focused on that, and maybe you have a headset, or maybe you want to start in a 2D kind of environment, from my research, most of the experience design that's going to really uplift us is based on a sense of wonder. So I would encourage someone, as the first tip, just to focus on that word wonder and play. And ask if you can take a headset home or order one for yourself because you want to do this pilot research. So the first step is just not to focus so much on the bells and whistles, but when you get inside, what do people do? They usually open their mouth. And I know we joke about this, but I call it wonder face. People go, wow. And what's happening, they've done psych studies. What happens when we move into that state is we're really open. Our brain is open to taking new information. The whole reason the body makes those movements of like wow and open is because internally we're experiencing this kind of cognitive shift where we can access something. We're not triggered by a fear factor. We're more leaning into an experience with curiosity. So I would say, harness that. See yourself as a learner. If you're in charge of, say, a group and you're thinking, oh, how do I manage all of this? Start small. Hero's Journey is about mentoring. That's my second tip. You can mentor somebody else if you know a little bit about the field and the tech. And you can also look for a mentor. There are people Like in my work, I have the Virtual World Society. So there's virtualworldsociety.org. I think the same goes for esports. I've been listening to this and wanting to get on those websites and just form coalitions with friends and other people in the field. And the third thing that I want to share that's a tip for teachers has to do with the presence pyramid. It's in my book, Designing Wonder. It basically has to do with that tenet that we say for all learning. It's meaningful sometimes when you read something or when you read about it, but the meaning that you're encoding when you're at the top of the pyramid is by doing something and experiencing it. So having that live shared experience in VR, there are so many ways that it can transform learning. So to get in and do that, see a 3D object that represents a piece of learning and be able to manipulate it, that's where magic happens and you'll feel it. So so I volunteer myself to serve as a mentor if people listening want to feel support and have more avenues and resources. And just thanks so much for this chance to share and animate something that might be a different topic for some of the listeners.
Awesome. Caitlin, thank you very much for sharing your experiences. No doubt our listeners are going to be taking a piece of that home with them and might end up reaching out to you. Let me put up your slide actually so people can reach out to you. If they want to connect with you on Twitter, it's at mindwise_CK or via your website, CaitlinKraus.com. Caitlin, thank you so much. Let's jump back into, before we jump back into the staff room, let's see what the poll answers are. Let's see what happened in the poll. So, the poll, how's this looking here? What's happened here? Why is it looking a little bit odd? The poll's looking good actually. We've had a lot of responses. Problem solving seems to be the key one. The characteristics that esports and VR promotes in students: teamwork, reasoning, improved soft skills, creativity, affinity space, collaboration. I'm not entirely sure why it seems to be a little bit off. Let me see if I can fix that. Oh, there we go. Humility, literacy, passion. Really good positive characteristics. Let's jump over to our staff room now and get some opinions from our staff room. Michael, over to you.
Wonderful, thanks. And thanks, Caitlin. You're doing a lot of things. One of the things that jumped out to me was this idea of mentorship around finding people who can support you at any stage of this process, whether you're a learner or whether you are the teacher or whether you are a teacher who is learning. And yes, to I think what you had said before, that this call has several folks on it who I'm sure serve as mentors in this capacity and are always open to talking more about esports and VR. So let's jump over to Lainie. Lainie, what caught your attention from what Caitlin had to say?
It's actually kind of thinking about what both Tom and Caitlin said about kind of these skills are being developed that you wouldn't necessarily associate with these two fields. It's not the automatic reaction of most people to be like, oh, esports, that's going to help develop social emotional learning. Oh, virtual reality, that's going to help improve attention and presence. Like, we don't necessarily make those connections. And I'm speaking to those of us who are on the peripheral, not as in this niche environment as those of you experts on this call. So I know as someone who, my niche world has been online learning, which is now everyone's world, but I kind of think about esports and virtual reality, like I have to let go of my baggage for what I might think, not knowing everything. And I loved the ask a kid, ask another teacher who's involved with it. We have to step out of our comfort zone and kind of let go of what we associate these negative stereotypes and really think about what are the positives and how can we meet kids where they are and really make learning more relevant, more interesting. The 100% attendance, I mean, we in education tend to focus on compliance, like how do we get those tushies in the seat? And so when they're coming for this, we have to pay attention to that. They're not coming because they have to, they're coming because they want to. I think that's really important. So Thank you all for sharing. I'm learning a ton.
Yeah, thank you, Lainie. Chris, let's jump over to you. I know you've been also in this world for a while. What hits you?
I mean, the biggest thing that I took away from listening, it brought me back to my former English teaching days, was the storytelling, was the mindfulness piece. Before I even really got into esports, I was kind of doing a lot with game-based learning, and I remember I taught transmedia storytelling with a game called Gone Home. I taught my ethics and morality unit with the Walking Dead game that Telltale did. So for me, you know, esports and VR, I think are obviously continuing to grow and have a rightfully are. But I even think back to back in the day, you know, 6 years ago when I was teaching English, that was a wonderful way to engage students, and they were just really excited to have a medium that they enjoyed playing brought in to teach something that they love. And I think when we listen to what everybody's saying, whether it's VR, when you talk about video games or esports, that's really what we're doing, right? We're taking what kids love and we're teaching them what we want them to know. And again, whether that changes in 5 years, the tech changes, I think that's always one thing that a teacher needs to be able to harness, is to take what they love and to be able to teach kids through it. You know, my next big thing, I teach entrepreneurship and innovation at the middle school I work at, is when we get to our sales unit and we start to talk about, you know, public speaking and convincing people and having integrity when you speak and stuff like that. I'm trying to figure out a way to use Among Us and, you know, record portions of what they're saying and then go back and play it, and, you know, and bring in those you know, old English elements into the entrepreneurship piece, and then the game they enjoy playing and the technology to record it and play it back. So I think at the heart of what everyone was saying, including Caitlin, is just using what kids love to teach them what we want them to know.
That's great. Yeah, it seems like at the heart of good teaching is the ability to connect with young people, and that includes understanding where they're at, what they're interested in, what they spend their time doing, and figuring out how to weave that into the classroom setting. So I appreciate that. Jesse, what about you? I'm sure you've got all kinds of things.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because this happens to be the two topics that we released books on this year, right? So we wrote the AR/VR book, and
that was not set up. That was not planned. Let me tell you.
You know, so there's so much to build on off of what everyone said. I think as I've been sitting here thinking, I've been thinking about what are the connections between the two books. So, you know, what are those connections between AR, VR, and esports? And I think what appealed to us in terms of the writing process was we wanted to write about something that would connect emerging technologies to the goals that we have as educators, which are to increase opportunities for voice, choice, and agency for our students, to bring better homeschool connections into our schools. And I think when I think about how the two books line up in a similar way, it's in trying to advocate for the use of those technologies by trying to change perceptions around some of the challenges that the technologies pose. So in the case of VR, Caitlin held up a headset before. I think some of the concerns people have had with headsets are, you know, cost, how do I manage them? Definitely with COVID now, there's the concerns about sharing headsets. So we kind of talked about the fundamental learning possibilities and the empathy building that can happen through these tools. So that's been the appeal on that side. And then with esports, you know, we dedicated an entire quarter of the book towards changing perceptions and kind of addressing some of those, you know, elephants in the room around what are the general, when you go to have a conversation, if you're going to be the initial stakeholder in your school district, how do you start to build allies and kind of, break down some of those barriers in terms of screen time, violence, toxic culture, things like that. And so what we did was we went out and did the research and said, look, we don't have all the answers, but what we can tell you is this is what's actually happening out there, and these are the actual facts behind it. You know, Chris had actually set up an interview for us with Amon Green, who is a 4-time Pro Bowl NFL running back, who now is the head esports coach at Lakeland University in Wisconsin. And his big message to us was, you know, the athletes he works with now in his esports program are just as much of an athlete as those people that he's, coached and played alongside over the years. And he really dug deep into the regimen that they have to go through and, all the health and wellness aspects, the SEL components, all those different pieces. So I think whether we're talking about AR, VR, or whether we're talking about esports, I think my hope is that we're doing something to help expedite the timelines for adoption for these emerging technologies, because as someone who sat as both a classroom teacher and as an administrator, I think, we want to break down those barriers to adoption. And I think the pandemic, in a weird way, has kind of increased teacher capacity around using technology. So all these teachers before who were like, I'm not a technology person, I can't use it. Well, guess what? You were thrown into it this year, and you didn't have a choice, and you came out the other side. And now, what are we going to do with that increased capacity of our teaching staff? I think this is the time to start exploring, how do we look at AR and VR for adoption in the classroom? How do we start to build esports programs in our schools for the benefits of students? And the book, we have tons of stories of how students have connected with schools as a result of this. And I think, I hope that that's the big takeaway here, is that if you're not exploring the possibility of having an esports program in your school, you're already behind.
Great, thanks, Jesse.
I had an inspiration from that too, just thinking about the notion of the learning center also being your home. So as parents, as people who are involved with your home area, you can involve esports, you can involve VR, and doing it in the home is a way to increase passion and have student voice. So I think right now I'm also teaching a course at Stanford about digital well-being, and we look a lot at the home being a center of well-being. And for me, gaming and VR, it increases my well-being. So yeah,
Great.
Just to add that.
Yeah, it seems like if there were a moment for technology to play a more prominent and hopefully more sort of healthy and beneficial role in schools, given the pandemic, given the fact that teachers have now been immersed and are learning about technology and using technology at speeds that they would not have predicted, I think now it feels like the time. So thank you for all of that, for all of you, Caitlin, Lainie, Chris, Jesse, and Evo, back to you.
Thank you.
Chester.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so we held last month our second Esports Education Summit in the UK, and the Minister of Digital for the UK government actually supported that and gave a fantastic video towards it. So you're 100% right. COVID, lockdown 1 and lockdown 2 for us in the UK has been incredible to promote esports going mainstream, and we've seen a huge increase in its use. And those gamers had a relatively good lockdown because they're being social. The people doing sport missed out on socialization and being competitive. So we were helping. We're the only after-school club still happening during lockdown 2. Every week we got over 150 schools participating in a national high school esports tournament. So yeah, it's been a very strong year for us and just changing perception. So yeah, it's been really beneficial.
That's awesome. Great to hear. Thanks, Chester. Evo.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, guys, for sharing your insights and your thoughts. Jesse, do you want to quickly put down the title of the 2 books that you guys have been involved in, just in the chat window on YouTube, or if one of you guys goes into the chat window on YouTube, puts down the titles and possibly where they can be purchased from, or more information, that might be helpful for the people who are watching this at the moment or will be watching it back. And so, yeah, I'm just going to quickly go to the second question in the poll again and just see how that looks. Again, a lot of the characteristics that have just been mentioned are actually being mentioned here by the viewers. So it's great to see problem solving, collaboration, teamwork, soft skills, perseverance, engagement was a big thing that both Caitlin and Tom spoke about. So thank you very much for participating in the poll for everyone who is watching. So we're going to go over to now the fun part of the show right at the end, just to cap things off. Let's see how the very last staff room quiz goes with our 2 teams. We, of course, have Team Red, or the red team versus the purple team. The captain of the Reds is Caitlin. Caitlin, would you like to introduce your team?
Sure. So I'm wearing red for the team, and just wanted to say that I'm very into this idea of having a team sport quiz, because I think that shows that we live behind our message and we're involving some sport right now. Chester King is on my team, another CK representation here. We have Steve Isaacs and Jess Lubinsky. So that's Team Red.
Awesome. And Team Purple, going to be led by Tom. Go for it, Tom.
Yeah, go Team Purple. So it's me, Tom Dore. It's me, along with Lainie and along with Chris as well.
Awesome. So, are you guys ready for this?
As long as there are no questions about Liverpool, we'll be fine.
All the questions are about Liverpool. So the way it's going to work, there's going to be 5 questions. There's going to be 2 dedicated questions to each team. Purple team will get question 1 and 3. Red team will get question 2 and 4. And then the last question, which is always worth double points. So it's going to be worth 4. All the others will be worth 2 points. Hopefully we'll separate the 2 teams. Let's see how it goes. So purple team up first. That will be Tom, Lainie Rowell. Michael is going to be on the clock. 20 seconds for your answer. Obviously you can confer. So yeah, purples, here is your first question. Where are we?
So
here?
stressful.
Okay, Nintendo. Nintendo is a famous games console company, as you all know, Japanese. But before gaming, what did Nintendo originally sell?
I'm too young for this question. No, I'm just kidding.
Chris, any ideas?
I know the answer. Do I say it?
Go, please.
It was trading cards.
Wow.
So the final answer has to come from the captain.
Yeah,
Oh,
so welcome to the
training
captain.
cards. Training cards.
All right, training cards, Evo.
Training cards. Well, yeah. Well, the answer's playing cards. I mean, training cards, trading cards, playing cards. Hanafuda was the name of these cards. And this was back when the company was founded in 1889. So 2 points to the purples. Well done.
Chris, thank you.
Yeah, we did a research unit on it for our board game class.
Well done.
Go.
Off the mark. Next question goes to the Reds. The PlayStation 5 just broke records with its sales on its first weekend. But what was the original purpose of what eventually became the PlayStation 1?
All right, you got 20 seconds. Red team.
I mean, it was supposed to be, it's interesting, it was originally going to be a collaboration with Nintendo, and that all went south, but I don't know if that's, we can go with that, I suppose.
And so the original purpose, collaboration with Nintendo.
Okay. You guys obviously know your stuff. It's good to know. Yeah, it was this is one of the...
Good one, Steve.
Yeah, this is one of those stories, isn't it, that goes down in history. So there was a joint venture between Nintendo and Sony to create the Super CD, the CD-ROM for the SNES in 1991, and Nintendo pulled out. Sony turns it into the PlayStation and breaks records with the PlayStation sales, and pretty much over the next 5 to 10 years, almost ended Nintendo, to be honest. So, talk about relationships going sour, guys. So, 2 points to the Reds.
We're tied at 2. These are good questions.
These are good questions,
group,
yeah.
You know? It's a good group that they know their stuff.
The group know their stuff, Michael. Absolutely. Okay. Question 3 to the Purples. In 2014, Facebook acquired Oculus. But for how much?
20 seconds on the clock. How much did Facebook pay?
Jesse's like cracking up.
How many millions was it, or was it one of these ones that was just like a pound or something like that?
No, it definitely wasn't that.
Well, Amazon bought Twitch in 2014 for $950 million. That's 2014. So something like Oculus, I don't know, $100 million?
All
Pick a
right,
number, any number.
we need
What do you
a
reckon?
Time is up. Tom, we need
$1
something.
billion.
$1 billion. Okay, I'll
What
go
do
with
you
a billion.
think, Tom?
Chris was right last time, $1 billion.
Okay, if you guys were close, I probably would have given you the point because I didn't expect you to get it exactly. It was a whopping $2.3 billion in cash and stocks. Crazy. But, I mean, look at what they're doing with it. Do you know what I mean? These companies, the giants of the tech industry, they know what they're doing. So, yeah,
Red, that's our
2.3.
chance. That's our chance, Red.
So, purple stay on 2. Reds for the lead. Question number 4. The first VR headset was patented in the 1960s by inventor Morton Heilig. But what was it called?
20 seconds.
Was that the Sword of Damocles? I need my team.
I would defer to Caitlin on this one.
Should we guess Sword of Damocles?
Go, Captain.
Let's,
Do it.
yes.
Pressure's getting to him.
Okay. All right. Final answer: Sword of Damocles.
All right. Evo?
Okay, so that came up when I did the search, which is the reason why I mentioned the inventor's name, because I didn't want to get any confusion. It was actually called the Telesphere Mask. So,
In all fairness, I did not know that, so Sword of Damocles was as good as I had.
Yeah.
We still remain on 2-all, which means the final question. This is going to be a great question then, guys. Guys, this goes to both of you. You both have 20 seconds. We want a little bit of chaos. It's called Closest to the Pin. Whoever guesses the closest basically wins. Okay? And they become crowned the esports / VR episode champions. There is all to play for, guys. I know, and you know, it's all about competition, guys. So you do want to win and walk away with the prize, and it is obviously bragging rights because it is the last show of the season. So, 20 seconds for this one. You will both answer. According to the IGN network, the best-selling game of all time is Tetris. But with how many sales? 20 seconds on the clock.
All right. Both teams, go for it.
I'd go around 25 billion, but I don't know.
25 billion?
Yeah, why not?
Be a bit less.
Do we have that many people in the world?
Four
We have it on multiple platforms.
Yeah.
8 billion. Let's do 8.
I'm not going billion. I don't reckon $1 billion.
No, see,
I-
the only thing I can think of is that Grand Theft Auto 5, isn't that the best-selling video game of all time?
Well,
No,
Minecraft.
Tetris is.
Or Minecraft.
And Minecraft beat it, but might have lost it again.
Yeah.
Do you know a number for Minecraft?
I
So I
should.
know the rough number.
All right, we're gonna need
500
This
million.
is great.
500 million.
So Tom with the
500
purple.
million.
I'm still going to go 25 billion.
Caitlin.
Bazillion.
What's for
Brilliant.
Can we say one?
I don't want to tell you. Caitlin, what do you got?
$1.
We said 500 billion.
Let's say 250 million.
Caitlin, what do you think?
Just, you think? Okay. We'll go with 300 million.
Okay, so we have 300 million for the Reds and 500 million for the Purples. Evo.
Okay, guys, it's very close. Minecraft, from the records that I can see, was 200 million. It's meant to be the second best. I thought it was the best-selling game of all time until I dug a bit deeper. And now I understand the reason why. Tetris, best-selling game of all time with 500 plus million. Obviously, they can't give an exact figure. And the reason why is because you could download it on your phone. And because it's been available for so much longer than the other games that the sales have accumulated. So what Steve said was right. People had it on multiple devices over and over again because it's obviously like a cult classic. So yeah.
Steve said 25 billion.
It's like everybody in the world has bought this game at least 3 times, at least 4 times. I absolutely love the craziness, guys. So it's the 4 points goes to purple, which means the final scores, guys, are 2 to the reds and 6 to the purples. Congratulations to the purples.
Well, we do want to dispute that, and we want a recount, and we'll go to the Supreme Court.
What I would like to do is, obviously we have a lot of competitive people in the room. I would like to offer an opportunity to have further discussions about esports and about VR in separate episodes in season 3. Tom and Chester and the rest of you guys, would you be interested in doing that?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, Caitlin, Lainie, cool. Yeah. And that way we might be able to have a bit of a rematch as well, guys. Is there going to be? Would you be holding grudges for 4 months or 3 months?
Oh, definitely.
That's what I like to hear. A true gaming spirit.
I don't like losing to each other.
Absolutely brilliant.
What's going to happen is we're going to get on and play some esports in the meantime, so we'll be battling each other in the game.
There you go.
Yeah, you guys are going to be joining. You guys are going to be jumping into Fortnite tonight. You'll be like, right, red team versus purples. Let's do this rematch. So yeah, absolutely. It's been brilliant, guys. It's a great way to finish off season 2. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined us. Thank you to Chris. Thank you to Jesse. Thank you to Steve, Lainie, Chester, our guests tonight, Tom and Caitlin. You've really inspired my train of thought regarding esports and regarding VR. And thank you, Michael, for not only helping me co-host tonight's Staffroom quiz and Staffroom, but across all the other episodes in season 2. He's been absolutely magic. Guys, can you give Michael a round of applause, please? He's been absolutely magic. He's really helped out with helping get things organised, bringing people to the show. It's been awesome, guys. Thank you very much. If you please stick around, I'm just going to end the show. So it's very sad. After 14 shows, guys. Yeah, after 14 shows, we're bringing everything to a close. Thank you very much for all the viewers who have been tuning in over the past 14 weeks. We kickstarted this off at the beginning of September, and now it's come to the beginning of December, and we're bringing it to a close. Season 3, including episodes with esports and VR, bringing some of these inspiring guests back, and a host of other topics will be starting around the end of February, beginning of March. I really look forward to welcoming you back to Ed Talks Live. It's been wonderful having you part of the polls. Let's see if we can bring some more innovations into the show as well. Feel free to watch some of the past episodes and get in touch with me if you want to on Twitter or on Instagram or even via email. You can catch me on my website, evohanan.com. Always open for ideas, always happy to welcome new guests onto the show. So let's hope 2021 is a better year for all of us. If you are teaching this week, if you're a teacher, keep inspiring your students. If you're a student, keep listening to your teachers. If you're a parent, nurture your children. And let's make sure that we have a great year ahead. All the best. Take care of yourselves. And I'll see you soon.